Hi there. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. What's so funny, tough guy?
It was just so pleasant. Like you were so pleasant. I have my life have never been as pleasant as you were in that moment.
I
Anytime I'm
I
most pleasant, I'm a little bit caustic, but you, my friend, are like a bucket of look it, I'm gonna be honest with you, Andy.
Please do.
Here on Second Breakfast, welcome to Second Breakfast Podcast, everybody. Here's the deal. That's Andy Roth, who almost did a spit take. I'm Phil Duvall. I've had a bunch of cookie dough and a lot of Diet Coke. I'm so ready for this gauntlet. I can't even tell you. I am in fuego. I am
Are
in
we
fuego.
are we Bart and Millhouse after the all syrup super squishy? Are
You
we
can
about to
really
go?
chutney, can't you? We are. What does he do? He goes, oh, that's good squishy. Yeah, we're gonna
Oh,
like
that's good squishy.
Springfield.
Are we about to go
Springfield.
crazy Broadway style?
Yes, we're gonna go crazy Broadway style. We're not gonna go crazy Broadway style. You know why, Andy?
Why is that?
We're gonna go crazy Gauntlet style.
Gauntlet style.
Gauntlet style. I'm not
That's
gonna do
exactly
it. I'm not
yes.
gonna. I
Yeah.
take it back. I do
No,
love
totally.
Psy though. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna dim my affection for him
No.
based on popular backlash.
Which one of us would be Psy and which one of us would be MC Hammer?
I think I'm Hammer.
Do you? Okay, that's fair. I can see that. And by that I can also see me being Psy.
I think you're the up and comer and ready to go, and I'm like fading, maybe shooting back up every once in a while. So,
I'm not sure I'd put it that way. I'm not sure I'd put
that's
it that way.
I mean, otherwise it's all just arbitrary. I have a buddy though who's also as white as can be, probably whiter than me and younger than me, and by 400 years or so. And he said he's an East Coast guy, but anyway, so he one time said that or no, he basically said that he and I are Dre and Pac, Dr. Dre and Tupac.
Yep.
And I was just like, that's fine so long as you know that I'm Dr. Dre. And he's like, no, of course you are. Like, you're Dr. Dre and I'm Tupac. That's part of the deal. And I was like, well, then we're fine. Moving right
Nice.
along.
Nice. I like
So,
it.
all right,
I like
let's do
it.
this. Let's do this, man.
Do you want to preface the bringer of the gauntlet at all, or do you
I
want to?
should. No, I think that's a good idea. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to do a shout out to the original. There's a guy by the name of Josh Edwards. He's a friend of mine, someone I love dearly. And he literally told me he wanted before, it was when we first started shooting, and he was liking our show, but he kind of wanted to know what he's a very skeptical person. He's the kind of guy that'll look at you out of the side of his eye a lot. And, he wanted to make sure before he really was in on what we do that we had any sense of taste and decorum. So he sent a list. He sent this list of questions that he intended originally for a mailbag, but there were like 7 multiple choice questions,
Right.
and they were all these questions that were like, not what's the best Stanley Kubrick movie, but what's the best Stanley Kubrick movie, and then gives us 3 choices.
Right.
And they might not be, none of the 3 might be our favorite or the best according to us, but we could only choose from them. And it was this,
Right.
and Andy and I at first were talking, you and I were talking about doing this as a mailbag, and then we were like, this deserves its own special entity, its own body.
Indeed.
And it became very quickly known as the Gauntlet, as the person who constructed this thing didn't just ask us some questions, he threw down a gauntlet through which we had to navigate, and it would be harrowing at times. I'm not going to lie to you, but this is the business we've chosen.
Is this our 4th gauntlet?
This is our 4th gauntlet. The last gauntlet was so big it took us two parts. I don't think that will happen here.
I highly doubt it. Yes.
But this looks like just a really fun, well-constructed set of questions.
I agree.
From your friend and mine, but actually just mine, Blake Woods. You'll get to know him eventually. Love him. He's a lovely man.
Blake, I'm sure I'd like you, but Phil apparently doesn't want us to be friends. Apparently.
I want all the friends for me. Just keep them to myself. I'm convinced once people meet others, they'll realize that I'm not that great, and so I need to hoard you all.
It's true. Second Breakfast audience.
Stop it.
Phil has me contained in a very
Stop.
small closet.
Stop talking to them.
Send
Stop.
help.
Get away.
Please. Maybe some water?
It puts
Actually, I'm doing okay on water.
puts the lotion on its skin, or it gets the hose again.
Put the lotion in the basket. Okay.
My
The
buddy
sad
Will,
thing,
my
the
buddy
sad
Wilson
thing about that role,
perfectly.
mm-hmm.
You
The
do it
sad thing
really
about
well.
that role is it's so quotable, and there's not a single one of his lines that we can say on this podcast.
There's only one that you can totally say on this podcast, but it's
Oh
still offensive.
wait, oh wait, was she a great big fat person? Yes, yes,
Yes, she was large,
yeah.
sir.
She was a big girl, sir, or
She was a big
whatever it
girl,
is.
sir.
Yeah,
God, I love Jodie Foster in that movie.
yeah.
Single-handedly
That's
became my favorite actress because of that movie.
fair.
Just blew my mind as a
Totally
kid.
fair.
Okay.
Let's
We're totally delaying the gauntlet, which is what we
tango.
do.
Let's tango, tough guy.
You
Shall
got the
we?
questions. Bring it. Bring the gauntlet on. Question number 1.
Best Patrick Swayze movie. R.I.P. Swayze. You're my dog. The 3 we are given.
I should have thought that too. Now there's Diet Coke on my floor.
Pouring one out for Patrick Swayze.
Pour one out for Swayze.
Listen to me
Swayze
anyway.
dog.
The 3 we are given. The Outsiders. Roadhouse. Point Break.
Okay. I have my answer already, but here's the thing. I think the decision, there's a lot of factors that go into the decision. It's not what's the best movie.
Right.
It's what's the best Patrick's. The best movie of those 3 is Outsiders.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
it's such an ensemble piece. While the obvious answer for many might be Point Break, I think it's a more popular film.
Yeah.
I don't know it as well.
What am I going to do, Johnny? Paddle in New Zealand?
I'm going with Roadhouse here. I'm going with Roadhouse because I think it is. He's not sharing the screen with Keanu. This is tour de force. This is tour de Swayze.
Dude, that is exactly what I was going to say, and that's my answer too. Roadhouse. It's just, it's impossibly fun, impossibly dated, and frankly, impossibly Swayze.
It was
great.
dated when it came out.
It's true. That is true.
I was watching that movie. Can I tell 2 brief stories about Roadhouse? 2. One from 20 years ago and one from last month. Okay, 20 years ago. So I had a brother who worked at Music Plus, which was a video and music store back in the day. It was like a Tower Records, but it was called Music Plus. It was a very big chain in Southern California. They had a Ticketmaster, so if you were going to go to your local Bon Jovi concert, that's where you get your tickets. But it's where you'd rent videos or get your records and CDs and tapes. Okay. So he would always have like the new releases of movies and stuff. He'd always have them, sometimes even before they came out. So his room was right next to my room, and he was never around because he was a teenager. So I would always go into his room and look around.
Sure.
I was 9 years younger, so I was always just like trying to soak up whatever it was that made him older and cooler than me.
Okay.
And there on his bed was Roadhouse. I was 12?
Okay.
11? 11? 10? When did that movie come out? I was young.
Right.
And I watched rated R movies all the time because no one checked in on me. I did basically whatever I wanted.
Right.
I
Raised by television.
watched Roadhouse, which has, even now to this day in my mind, an excessive amount of violence, an excessive amount of filthy language, and just gratuitous sex. I am on record as saying all sex in film is pretty gratuitous. This movie, gratuitous, my friend.
Right.
Okay? So I see so I'm with my brother. Haven't seen him in like whatever because again he's older, much older, and so we're all about to go out we're all at dinner and we're like walking into the restaurant and I go, hey, guess what? And he's like, what? And I'm like, I watched Roadhouse, thinking he was gonna be like, what'd you think? Right? Like clearly that's what my brother's gonna do because what else could you possibly do? I'll tell you what else you could possibly do. He goes, Mom, Dad, do you know what your son did? Do you know what he watched? He ratted me out! He thought he was doing, like, the world a favor, you know? Like, I have to look out for you because you're an idiot.
Here's why that's weird to me. Because wouldn't he get blamed?
No, you don't know my family at all. That movie came out in '89, so I probably saw it when I was 10 or 11.
Sure.
And no, in my family, if my brother was hitting me or calling me names or something, and I'd be like, Mom or Dad, like my brother's hitting me, and he'd be like, Stop hitting your brother, and you don't tell on him and stop annoying him.
Fair
There
enough.
was it was jail yard justice in my house. Like there was a lot of shivs,
You were
a lot of
basically you were basically a Bravo TV series, basically.
kind of. It was pretty brutal, man. It was
Nice.
pretty brutal.
Story
Um,
number
uh,
one. Story number two.
okay, this is quick. I
All
was
right.
watching this movie. I didn't get the beginning, but I was watching the end of this movie last month for the first time in many, many, many years. And there's that scene where the main, not the main bad guy, but the main bad guy's sidekick, who's the other badass, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, spoiler, he kills that guy
Well, sure.
in the water.
Sure.
And he's drowning, and this guy is basically kicked in the face repeatedly and then left in the water to drown.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching it, I remember thinking, that guy's got a mom. That's all. Like, I just remember thinking, like, when that moment, I've had a kid, and I've looked at her, and I wonder if the mom ever looked at her like, he's gonna grow up to be a bad guy's henchman and then get drowned in the river after being kicked in the face repeatedly. Probably not something you'd ever expect for your child.
No, no. If for no other reason, then that probably doesn't give you dental. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, it's not like, there's no union there, right? You know what I mean?
So my answer is Roadhouse.
My answer is also Roadhouse,
Yes.
with serious shout-outs to Dirty Dancing and Ghost. And I know that those are the obvious choices, but they're obvious because they're awesome. Like,
I think also The Outsider needs to be mentioned, even though it's said here. I'm glad it's in the category just because
it's a very good movie. It's not a Patrick Swayze movie.
Patrick Swayze became a punchline so quickly that it's hard to recognize just how amazing he was for that brief shining moment.
Yeah, agreed. Big fan. I never saw the TV
I mean,
show.
he's kind of like the Neil Diamond of actors.
I need to explain that.
Even in his best moments, there's a cheese factor that you have to acknowledge.
Fair. Okay. I never saw the TV show he's working on when he died, The Beast, but I heard it was great. People who saw it absolutely loved it. He was apparently like a great sort of gritty anti-hero, and I can't really wrap my brain around that, but I believe them.
Well, if you see Roadhouse and Next of Kin, you see little inklings of him trying to do that kind of
No, that's fair.
because he's not the shining, like, he's not a Boy Scout in Roadhouse. He'll get his hands dirty, you know? Pain don't hurt. Best line ever. Pain don't hurt.
Nice.
Well, it does, Patrick Swayze. That's why
the
it's
definition of...
called
Anyway.
pain.
Next question. Rank these action movies in pure badassery.
Ooh.
Now...
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to give you the three, and then we need to clarify something.
Okay.
The Matrix.
Okay.
The Professional, Leon. Terminator, Dose.
Oh!
Diez de Judgment.
Hard, man.
So here's how we need to clarify. Is it the action movie as a whole, or like the protagonist or main character therein? I don't care how we answer it.
The answer is yes, Andy, because I think it has to be the movie as a whole, because the movie as a whole is defined by the character's badassery. Would your answer change?
Potentially.
Say more.
Uh,
I mean, I can ask the Gauntlet writer if you want.
no.
Okay.
No, he's giving it to us. It's not his baby anymore. It's our time down here.
It's our time down here. If you go up that bucket,
Right.
if you're on Blake's bucket,
He is Troy, and we all know what a jerk Troy is.
you are a jerk, Blake. Yeah.
Right?
He is from Oklahoma. The whole state is just smarmy.
Nobody's perfect. Anyway, so all right. We'll go with action movie as a whole. You want me to go first?
I do.
This is tough. This is tough. Looking at it now, it's harder than I thought it was when I first looked at it. But here is my ranking the entire movie in its totality. Number one, The Professional. Number
Wow.
two, The Matrix.
Okay.
Number three, Terminator 2.
Okay.
Now, it's important to realize that the third ranked movie here is one of the most badass movies I have ever seen, ever. So there's no shame in winning this particular bronze medal. I can say more about that, but first I want to hear your ranking.
Movie-wise, I would go in exact reverse order from you.
Fascinating. Okay.
I think Terminator 2. I might be The Matrix. I think the thing is, the reason those so The Matrix is not just an awakening of one person, but it's actually the salvation of the entire world. Done by kung fu and bullet.
Oh my god, I never got the biblical symbolism.
Stop. No, I'm not even talking about biblical symbolism. Just in general, like that's what the movie's about.
Agreed.
Like it's about saving the entire world.
I agree with you.
So is Terminator 2, kind of, but on a smaller scale.
On a more
frankly.
indirect way. In a more indirect way. Agreed.
And then Leon is really about the saving of one person.
True.
So I think let me say I think Terminator glories in the badassery.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Matrix is about the discovery and the excitement of badassery, but there is this level of recognition that it's all within a simulacrum. It's all within some dream state, so it's not actually real.
Right.
Leon is the most realistic of the three films because it's set in reality.
Yep.
I'm changing my answer. It's Leon. It's professional. I think Terminator 2 is the greatest action movie of all time. I think The Matrix is one of the greatest action movies of all time. One of the 5 or 6 greatest action movies of all time. I'd never even thought about ranking Leon in there, but for some reason, here's the crazy thing. I don't even think of it as an action film.
I am so glad you said that. I absolutely agree with you. Which is not to say that there's not fun action in it, but there's so much else going on. And I'm also glad that you said that it's the most realistic, A, because you're right and that's true, but B, that's actually why it is the most badass for me. Because you don't see him do anything that a human being can't do.
The thing is, there's something really badass about the Terminator but it's because he knows he's indestructible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He can walk into a biker bar naked and take a cigar to the chest and not even think about it.
Yes.
And then just like destroy everything and then put their sunglasses on and drive off in the Harley.
Here's how my answer would change if we were just going by the main characters. The Professional would still be number 1, but The Matrix would be number 3. Terminator 2 would have moved up from 3 to 2 because the Terminator I think is more badass than Neo. I think actually.
Yeah, you're right.
And maybe I'm wrong, or maybe this is a misguided opinion. I think he actually becomes less badass the more developed he gets.
Sure. Yes.
I suppose.
Yes. But I'm not thinking about the Matrix other 2 movies. I'm only thinking about the Matrix here.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
Like I'm not thinking about Terminator 3.
I will say this. Okay. I'm going to bring in the 2 other movies, the Matrix 2 and 3, but only to sort of inform the climax of the first one. One of the main problems I had with the latter 2 Matrix movies is he's gotten to the point where he can go inside an agent and explode them from the inside.
Where do you go from there?
He's still punching them.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And so because of that, when he gets to be his most badass, it's the most anticlimactic. Like the first part of that scene where he's like figuring out how awesome he can be is great, but then it's like, and I'm done with you now. Boom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then they made 2 more movies.
Right. And so I feel like The Matrix, it's like a steady climb up the badass mountain and then off a cliff.
Fantastic.
But the movie as a whole, specifically that first movie, the world it builds is just awesome.
Yep.
And so that's why it gets them, and it's so close. All three of them are so close for me. But
Here's why.
my
Okay, so you've actually helped me figure something out. Terminator 2, it might still be Terminator 2 for me because there's something we haven't mentioned. It has maybe the most badass female character in an action film, which is Linda Hamilton's character.
The only one that's in the conversation is Ripley from the Alien movies.
Yes. And so the fact that there's two characters that are totally badass together, and one is human, and what she does in that movie and her journey from insanity to sanity is amazing.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
But what I love about The Professional, and by the way, in Terminator 2 is eminently more quotable and more memorable in a lot of ways. As for moments and iconography.
Yes, agreed.
But I will say this I think I'm going to stick with The Professional with Leon because can I get a little philosophical here?
Please do.
Because it stays in our world, because it stays in our understanding of humanity, like there's no science fictional elements.
Right.
And when people get shot, they bleed and they die. And the people get really messed up and they get hurt and they get sad and there's all that stuff in it. Because of all that, and the idea is this guy is not saving none of us are gonna save the whole world.
Right.
But we could actually save one person.
Yes.
And the idea that this movie rests on the notion that saving one person is a real thing, an actual thing.
Yep.
Makes it more badass because it's more like it's what I want people to think of badass as. People want to do this grand sweeping change the world. It's like, in the words of the prophet, start with the man in the mirror. Ask him to change his ways. Shaman.
Well said. And that is you've put words to what I was thinking when I brought up that it was. That the reason I think it's the most badass is because it's the most realistic. So thank you.
And that's why I'm hammering your side.
Stop. Okay. Do it again. Rank these movies in order of pure badassery. This time with swords.
Oh gosh.
Gladiator.
Okay.
Braveheart.
Okay.
300.
Oh, the answer is Rob Roy.
No. The answer is Rob Roy.
I don't know why people don't know that yet.
I know, right? Everyone watching or listening to this, see Rob Roy.
It's such a better movie than the three you just listed.
Agreed.
Gladiator. I already forgot the other two. Braveheart and 300. Okay, yes, I've got my choice. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Sure. I know that this wasn't the question, but I want to be very clear here that this is not ranked in terms of quality. Okay? It is clearly, to me, 300, right. Braveheart, and then Gladiator.
Yeah. Yes.
Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yes. I agree. Whereas, no discussion here. I'm with you 100%.
You're right. Whereas if we were going by quality of movies, it might be the exact opposite. Might be. I don't know. It's been too long since I've seen Gladiator.
Gladiator and Braveheart are two of the most overrated movies to win Best Picture.
I agree with you. I remember I saw that at the little theater in Davis Square, which is the nearest sort of square to where Phil and I went to college, with a friend of ours from college, and it was like a summer movie, and when it came out, it was like, oh, that's a fun summer movie, and we walked out and we're like, yeah, it was fun, whatever.
And then they were like, nominated.
Right, and then we got dinner in Davis Square, and by the end of dinner, we were talking about something completely different.
Right.
And then he and I, and like months later, he and I were like, that got nominated for who and the what now? What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the same year The Matrix came out.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
It might be. I saw The Matrix in England. I missed it in America, but when I went to the program in Oxford.
I'm sorry, The Matrix came out in 1999. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it like months and months later, which is weird. I don't know what happened there. I'm kind
fell
of
apart,
done.
Andy, as well.
Like I'm kind of done with this question. We could talk more about it if
I
you
am
want.
too. I don't even care about it. I don't
Yeah,
care about it. You should have picked better movies with swords, jerk face.
indeed, indeed. Can we get a little Princess Bride? Can we get a little Rob Roy?
And
Right?
just stop right there.
You're right. You're right.
Why are we still talking about this?
Moving on.
Here are the other
Most
movies that were nominated that year. Oh my god. Oh.
yes.
Uh, okay, I'm gonna name the other. I'm gonna name three other movies that were nominated that year. What a disastrous year!
This
And then
is
I'm
the
gonna
year
name
that
the movie
Gladiator
that
won.
this is the year the Gladiator won. Traffic came out that year, which could easily have won.
Yes.
Traffic was amazing.
Agreed.
Aaron Brockovich also came out. This was a joke. I think they were trying to make Steven Soderbergh the next Francis Ford Coppola in hopes, since he'd been talking about retiring, that he would stick around. So they nominated him for 2 awards in 1 year. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
And he won Best Director for Traffic that year.
I
They
remember
could
that.
give it to this guy. Okay, Chocolat is the other movie that
Okay.
was not the best film. And then, clearly, hands down, the best picture of that year, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I loved, and a better sword movie.
And
More badassery with swords.
right. Blake. Rob Roy, Princess Bride,
Crouching Tiger,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
That question would have torn my face up. Blake.
Yes.
Now
Done.
we're just being a jerk. Now we're just being jerks to a guy who's done a really good job with a Gauntlet.
That's true.
Next,
That's true. And I want to point out to everyone listening, we're not answering that question we just came up with. I don't have the heart. I don't have the heart right now. I just don't. Moving on. Most tragic Hollywood death.
Oh,
Ugh. Marilyn Monroe, River Phoenix, Heath Ledger.
got it. You want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
It is not Marilyn Monroe.
No, it is not.
And the reason is, it's, ugh. She's an icon. Purely in terms of like Hollywood and like impact. I mean, she's still arguably the single most famous sex symbol of all time, and she's so well known for being underrated as an actress, specifically
Yes.
a comedic actress, that she's almost properly rated or overrated. She's not
Right.
overrated, certainly, but you know.
No,
what I
you're
mean?
right. Yeah, and I'd go even further. I think we saw what we were going to get from her.
Agreed. I would agree with that. I want to go with River Phoenix on this, but I'm going to go Heath Ledger. And the reason two of his last movies, if not his last two, not his last two, because but two of his last movies, Brokeback Mountain and The Dark Knight, such different roles, totally transformative. Who could have figured that the kid from 10 Things I Hate About You would have turned in those two performances? Just shattering performances, both of them in completely different ways.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I would not quibble with River Phoenix as the answer to this question, though.
Good, because it's my answer. It's River Phoenix. I think you're right about Heath Ledger, that who could have thought the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You could have become the Joker the way that he did and turned in the performance in Brokeback Mountain. He unquestionably was, I can't even say the word. He unquestionably, and also, by the way, we should say 10 Things I Hate About You and Knight's Tale, which I know that girls love Knight's Tale, but it's a ridiculous film.
It's true.
I know that we were just beginning to see what he was capable of. But I feel like when you look at River Phoenix as a child performer,
Yeah.
who was able to turn in performances that were so ridiculously mature, and I mean, his character of Chris in Stand By Me is amazing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he'd done some other stinker movies, but he was always brought. I mean, he was phenomenal in Sneakers. And the great thing, he transitioned to adulthood and kept his looks,
Mm-hmm.
and was still working when he died. and I think that I just think that he would be. I think that he would be one of the two or three greatest actors of his generation right now still if he was alive.
Yeah.
And whereas Heath Ledger was coming into his own, I think River Phoenix had come into his own and was still getting ready to school us.
Sure.
Like, I think the older he got, the more brilliant he was going to get. I think it's Jack Nicholson stuff with River Phoenix. And I don't know that that's the case with Heath Ledger, but I think Heath Ledger's a legit choice. I wouldn't have a couple years ago, but I think because I think I have a prejudice against pretty boys, but I think
River Phoenix isn't a pretty boy.
He always played a dark character. He didn't play like the one that all the girls.
Fair.
Like Heath Ledger played like the handsome fellow, like the literally the knight in shining armor.
That's fair. Nice. Well done.
And it was him going ugly that shocked people. Whereas River Phoenix never played a heartthrob.
Yeah.
I think he had a real Jack Nicholson quality to him that I would love to have seen exploited. So that's my answer.
Agreed.
Also, I'm not going to lie. I was 14 when he died, and I remember it. Made me sad.
Yep. So. Moving on. The best Chris Farley movie.
All right.
Tommy Boy. We're done.
Yes.
Tommy Boy.
And then a bunch of other crap.
Right. Black Sheep, Beverly Hills Ninja. It's Tommy Boy, Blake. It's Tommy Boy.
I feel like Blake is 5 years younger than us. And
you don't have to feel like it. Is he or is he not?
Shut up. He is, and I think one thing, I think that like even 5 years younger than us is all it takes for Chris Farley to have. He was born in '84, so yeah, 5 years. 5 years younger than us is all it takes for someone to have a much higher, a much more inflated opinion of Chris Farley. I think you and I grew up in the age of John Candy. And I know it's stupid to compare all the fat, funny men, but they compared each other, man. And Chris Farley lived in the shadow in his mind of John Candy and John Belushi.
Yes.
Okay? And whereas John Belushi, I mean, and John Belushi's great, but we grew up in a time of John Candy and seeing these guys who were the fat guys who were also just tremendously gifted. And I'm not saying that Chris Farley wasn't gifted. Like, he was gifted, but he never made it past clown.
I agree.
He never made it past caricature. But I think
you know what he never did? You know what he did? I'm sorry to interrupt. You know what
go ahead, please.
The John Candy speech in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The one.
Yeah. But
he never did that. He never approached it.
I'll go even further than that.
Please.
I'm with you 100%. He never even did like the Uncle Buck movie, which was a straight comedy where the character does silly things but acts like a real human being.
Yes.
And there's so much when you watch that scene in Uncle Buck where he's looking at the picture of his brother's wedding and he unfolds it and realizes that they folded him out of the picture and put it in a frame.
Yeah.
Like, and they don't ever play it. They don't ever do it. He's just a real dude, man. And Uncle Buck is, whereas Planes, Trains is like becoming, and I think rightfully so, a more highly rated movie as time goes on. Uncle Buck is a movie that is squarely in comedy territory, but John Candy gave them humanity. But let's go back to the question for a second. We've knocked Black Sheep out and Beverly Hills Ninja I never even saw, so duh. But why is Tommy Boy the answer?
Because it's unless I'm wrong about this, it's the first time that Chris Farley and David Spade, for whatever they're worth, which I mean, it's not a lot in terms of like reinventing the form of comedy, but they did work really well together, and that was the first time, and so I feel like they got all the good jokes out of the way. You know, that's right. It really is. It's really that's really is.
The rest was a variation on a form, I think, and that's fine. There's a place for it, but Tommy Boy was funny.
Agreed.
Black Sheep had moments. Black Sheep is the one where they find Gary Busey as the Vietnam vet in the woods, and he's like, and it has that great line. My buddy Wes always quotes this line. I think it's totally a quote. You know, where he's like, the war's over, buddy. And he's like, who told you that? And he goes, Charlie. Charlie told me. So there you go. But no, I think it's definitely Tom. I think it's definitely Tommy Boy.
Yes.
Tommy Boy still has a little bit of heart, you know. Okay, so that's the answer. Let's move on to the next thing. I don't want to bash the dead man.
Right. Best movie to TV crossover. Friday Night Lights.
I think this is an interesting question for you. Continue.
It is an interesting question for me. Thank you for pointing that out. I agree with you. Friday Night Lights, MASH, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
There's so many ways. There's so many ways for you to answer this question. Actually,
yes. Here are the two that popped into my head first. One, what's the best TV show? Right? The other, what had the biggest net gain from movie to TV show?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Can we rule one of these out immediately?
Which one would that be?
MASH.
Why?
Who cares about MASH?
Are you nuts?
I'm just over MASH. I loved MASH when I was a kid, and then I turned 6, and I just stopped watching it. I
swear to God. When I say, Phil, that you're the worst, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Right?
It's fine.
That's fine. The stuff you do,
I've watched more episodes of MASH than I've watched of Buffy, and I would rather watch MASH than Buffy. So clearly, I take that back. I thought for you it would be between Buffy and Friday Night Lights, and that would be the hard decision to make.
Frankly, all three of them are hard for me. I won't pretend. I will give you this. I won't pretend that MASH has a place in my heart the way that Friday Night Lights and Buffy do.
Yeah.
So in that vein, absolutely, we can knock that out as a wonderful movie. That Altman movie is fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
It is my personal favorite of his.
Okay.
Although Catch Me Every Day it might be McCabe and Mrs. Miller, but sure. I know it's my one. It's the
player. It's the player, man. The player. I love the player. I love the player from beginning to end.
Fair enough.
Followed closely by Popeye. Continue.
Fair
Just
enough.
so we all know that my taste is terrible.
So we'll knock out MASH, and then the answer is clear. If we mean what's the best TV show, it's Friday Night Lights. If we mean what had the biggest net gain, it's Buffy.
You would say Buffy. You would say
Yes.
Buffy. Although I loved the movie. I loved the movie. Loved the movie.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a mess.
I know. Oh, it is. Oh no, it's a mess. I love that mess.
In the world where like everything gets that like Exorcist prequel treatment where they put out the same movie directed by two different people, I would love to see the Buffy movie with Christy Swanson, with Paul Rubens, with everyone except for Donald Sutherland, because the story goes, Joss Whedon is a lot of things, but method and like easily translatable into an actor's method is not one of them. And Donald Sutherland came to, the story goes, and this could be wrong, he came to the set and was like, we got to change all of this, and he was just difficult to work with, and he didn't fit with the rest of the, so replace him with his analog from the TV show. I'd love to see that movie.
Interesting.
And then, I don't think it would change that answer, but Friday Night Lights, the movie, is wonderful. It's not the TV show because we've talked about TV as opposed to movies
Because
a
how
lot.
much lightning can you catch in a bottle?
Exactly. You can catch lightning, still lightning, but one is a much larger bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I have to say about it. You know what I mean?
I think it's interesting, by the way, that Donald Sutherland was in 2 of the movies that were translated to TV shows.
That's
he was
right.
in MASH and Buffy.
That's right.
I love Buffy almost exclusively for Paul Rubens, and it came out. The TV. I'm not a fan of the TV show personally, but it came out. Christy Swanson. Buffy came out
93?
in 1992. I was 13, and she was about as hot as a person gets.
I don't.
And I was 13. Do I like
I
keep?
have nothing to say to
Let's
that.
keep. And I was 13, and she was as hot as people get, and I was 13.
Indeed.
She was hot. Okay. It's like a cycle. Paul Rubens, who I was such a huge Pee Wee's Big Adventure fan and Pee Wee fan, and
Yep.
he had just was only 2 years or 1 year before that he had gone through this whole thing, and to see him back made me so happy because I rooted for him and I wanted him to be okay. Like I wanted his career to be okay, and I thought he did just a bang up job.
Agreed. Agreed.
Other than that, it's kind of a disaster, but it was fun. It was fun for what it was, I think. But anyways, for me, it's Friday Night Lights, unquestionably. I want to say something else about MASH. MASH has a special place in my heart because when I was 3 or 4, my parents split up for a brief period of time, and I went and lived with my mom, and it was just me and my mom. And we
Okay.
used to watch MASH reruns like every night. Like every night, it was my mom and I eating dinner and watching MASH reruns. And so I have almost no memory of MASH as an adult. But I have this
Okay.
deep, like I never watch it now, and I don't think about MASH, but I remember it as a time in my life that was really special, really young.
Yeah.
So it's very impressioned like upon me, but I don't. As an adult, I have an opinion about Buffy and Friday Night Lights.
Sure. For those viewers and listeners who don't necessarily know a lot about MASH, the closest modern analog, and I'm not talking quality. I'm talking about what they were trying to go for. The closest modern analog I would think would be Scrubs, because that is a 30-minute show that really, really, really tried to be both a comedy and there were moments of real drama.
Right, because in both of them, in Scrubs, your setting is a hospital, which means you're going to see death and you're going to see sadness.
Yep.
And in MASH, it's during the Korean War.
Yeah.
The series for MASH lasted longer than the Korean War lasted.
Yes, it did.
But that's how Hollywood works.
That's how Hollywood works.
It gave us Alan Alda, whatever. It's fine. I love Klinger and all that. It's great. I grew up on all those people, and but for me, Friday Night Lights is my favorite, one of my 3 or 4 favorite shows of all time.
Yes.
I think you make a great point that book to television or movie to television translation might change the answer because Friday Night Lights movie is a great movie, or a very, very good movie.
Yes. Yes.
But to me, the answer all across the board is Friday Night Lights, probably unsurprisingly.
Fair. Totally fair. Moving on.
Yes.
Pick one movie genre
boy.
to no longer exist. No movies will have ever been made or will be made in this genre.
What are my choices?
Action, comedy, drama.
Yeah. Okay. You're waiting for me to go first. I choose action.
Okay.
Because drama can have action components in it. It can have like we talked about, like I wouldn't put Leon in an action movie. I would put it in the drama section, although that could be my problem. I cannot imagine my life without comedy.
Indeed.
So first and foremost, that sticks around.
Indeed.
Although there's been good action movies have comedy in them. Good dramas have funny moments. No, what am I talking about? I'm not getting rid of comedy no matter what happens in the world.
Yep.
Drama has a lower lows and higher highs in a lot of ways. It can be so boring.
Okay.
I'm getting rid of action. You?
You said it. Action. If I can get really pretentious for a second.
I might take it back. Give me a second. I might take it back, but go ahead.
Okay. If I can get really pretentious for a second, because just for a second. There is a reason that there is no, like the ancient Greek, plays, there's no action mask. There's a comedy mask and a tragedy mask, right? These are things that are fundamental to
There's no action masks because Schwarzenegger's face hadn't been invented yet.
Nice. Fair enough. There is something about comedy and about drama that elevates us, and purely action, I don't think it debases us in any way, but I don't think it elevates us.
Okay.
And
Quentin
frankly,
Tarantino said that action movies are the most cinematic genre, and when they're at their best, they make the most of what film is supposed to be. And I find that
true, but that doesn't change my answer. That's totally fair, but that doesn't change my answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it might change my answer, and here's why.
Okay.
One, because I'm a blind idiot who just follows whatever Quentin Tarantino says. No, that's not true. Um, uh, I might change my answer to drama mainly because even though drama has better movies, if there were no drama films and there were only action and comedy, there would still need to be an outlet for drama. You ready for my really? You thought your answer was pretentious? Are you ready for it?
Okay.
Theater might not be dead. Because there would still be this need for drama. And maybe there would be an actual, like, life theater experience that was not just turning movies, movies into musicals, but was actually like, we've got to have an an outlet for drama.
Way to out pretentious me. That well done.
Thank you. I think my answer is still probably. I think my answer might still be action.
But if you were going to make that argument, that's not a bad argument.
And I mean the idea of like cinema being what it is, like going to the movies. There's something really great about spectacle. That movies can do something that theater can't do when it comes to spectacle.
Fair.
But not when it comes to and when it comes to drama as well, but not to the same degree, obviously.
I agree with that.
I'd just start shifting movies that I used to call drama over into the action category.
Nice. Well done. Yeah, I think action. Bye, action. I'll miss you. Last question, Phil.
Ugh, I don't like that last one. Okay.
Last question. 3-parter.
Okay.
Select one movie to represent for all of time these 3 genres. For the action genre.
To be clear, I spoke with the Gauntleteer.
Yes.
And initially, what he was asking was, of the genre you discarded, if you could only have one movie from that genre to represent that genre. So all of action has been discarded except for blank. What would it be? But then I told him, well, that's fine, but I think we're going to also answer the question for all 3 genres.
Oh.
So let's start with action.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That doesn't change my answer at all.
No. But it's an interesting point, right? Like, there are no action movies except for this one movie.
Indeed. And my answer will come as no surprise to you or anyone who has ever met me ever. Action. The 4 movies up for debate. Top Gun, First Blood, Predator, Die Hard.
Okay. I mean... 1, 2, 3. Die Hard.
No question. And I don't. Top Gun has suffered. I don't think it's aged well. But I love me some First Blood and Predator. I love me some First Blood and Predator.
First Blood to me is the only competition, and it's the kind of action movie that could fit into the drama category.
I agree with that.
It's so good that you can't actually believe that the Rambo series comes from it.
Well,
like you can't. Because Rambo was actually more popular and more iconic. Also, by the way, we need to talk about the fact that the Rambo series has the worst set of, like, the most confusing set of names.
Yes.
So here's the names as they came out.
Right.
First Blood.
Yep.
Rambo, First Blood Part 2.
Right. Weird, but okay.
Rambo 3.
What?
And then Rambo.
And then Rambo. I mean, what? Sly. Come on.
He's just out of his mind. He's out of his mind. But First Blood is the only one that I think is just in the discussion for me. Although Predator has Schwarzenegger, but it's not even the best Schwarzenegger flick. It also has Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yes. It has Hollywood screenwriter deluxe Shane Black as an actor.
Oh wow, who was he in that?
He's the commando who wears the glasses.
Got it. He's also it's got the black guy, who's also the black guy in the movie we watched yesterday, Bird on a Wire.
His name is Bill Duke.
I know, and here's the thing I want to say about that. I want to say something potentially racist, but I think it's important to say.
Okay.
No, you'll be all right. Trust me. I'm gonna guide you inside. Okay. Like, have you ever talked to someone and you're like, okay, you're in an off. I was at like a store, like a retail store, and they're like, oh, you're gonna want to go talk to Jim, and I was like, looked over and there's like 6 people over there. And I'm like, which one's Jim? And they're like, the guy in the blue shirt. And I'm like, there's 2 guys in blue shirts, and they're like, the one with the blue that's a little bit tall. And I was like, just say the black guy. He's the only black person in the whole store. It's not racist. It's a descriptor. Okay?
Yeah.
No, if you said, like, talk to the black guy, but that's not what happened. It's just simple. That's a descriptor. We can stop, white people could stop referring to people in movies as the black guy if Hollywood would stop making movies with one token black guy who died as quickly as possible.
That is fair.
If you see a movie with a bunch of black people, for instance, Django Unchained, you wouldn't say the black guy because there's a bunch of black people in it. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't say the white guy because there's a good number of white people in it. So when I say the black guy, I mean he's not just that he's black, it's that he's the only one and he plays a very specific character.
Not true.
There's 2 in that movie because Carl Weathers is in it.
There we go.
But Carl Weathers is like he's transcended the stereotype. He has.
Okay.
He has.
Fair enough.
Carl Weathers in the 80s is an amazingly confusing.
It's true.
And fascinating figure who transcended the stereotype.
It's true. And perhaps my favorite of all of the guest stars on Arrested Development. Perhaps. I don't want to make a definitive statement there. Perhaps.
And phenomenal in Happy Gilmore as well.
Indeed.
So I remember going to see Action Jackson in the movie theater.
Me too.
I was 7.
Yep.
And my dad would just be like, what are we going to see? And he'd take me. And about 5 minutes into the movie, he handed me $5 and was like, go in the lobby and play arcade games. We didn't leave. My dad stayed and watched the entire movie. And I played arcade games for the next hour and a half.
That was a really solid call by your dad.
Yeah. Well, it was like the moment that he saw Vanity's boob for the first or second time, he was like, okay.
We're done here.
We're done. He tried. At first it was like, cover your eyes. And then he was like, cover your eyes and your ears and go in the lobby.
Yes.
Here's some money. Go play video games.
Moving on.
Yes.
Pick one movie. Drama.
Okay.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Fight Club.
No.
American History X.
Also no.
12 Angry Men.
Ah. Okay. The battle is clear, my friend.
I think I agree with you.
In the history of cinema, I believe that 12 Angry Men... I know, you've already done that, okay? I think that 12 Angry Men will be considered the greater film. But when we're talking about movies and how they can be cinematic, 12 Angry Men, I think, started as a play. Yep. And if it didn't, could easily be a play. Shawshank is just so deeply cinematic. So my choice is Shawshank. It might not be a better movie, but I'm choosing Shawshank Redemption.
I'm going to agree with you while disagreeing vehemently with your rationale. And I'll tell you why. Of
course you would.
I'll tell you why.
You can tell me. I'm not going to listen.
Picture this. So here's the deal.
I'm listening now.
I think it is. I believe it. It is certainly a play now. I don't know which came first, the movie or the play. But here's the deal. It's almost a masterclass on how to turn a one-room play into a movie. It is actually quite cinematic in sort of subtle ways. And the most interesting is this. At the start of the movie, all of the shots are from up high. So you see the whole room, it breathes. As the movie continues, the angle of the shots gets lower and lower and lower until finally you're looking up at people, especially if they're standing up. It might be eye level if they're sitting down. But they actually use cinematic tricks to make you feel more claustrophobic.
Oh, listen, it is first of all, it started as a teleplay, which means it was a TV show first.
Interesting.
I have nothing, literally nothing negative to say about 12 Angry Men.
Yes.
It is a superlative film.
Yes.
It is so good.
Yes.
Every actor in it's great. Every actor is his own type, and without being a stereotype somehow.
Yes. Yep.
It's like, I think it might even be a better movie than Shawshank. Then why? Well, let me say this. Then why do you choose Shawshank? What is your reason if it's different reasoning?
Because if I'm going to, because it's so narrow, like it's so superlative within sort of a subgenre, that being courtroom legal movies. It's only in the jury room, so courtroom's a little iffy. But like legal movies, it might be the finest legal movie ever made. It's certainly in the conversation.
That and My Cousin Vinny.
That, My Cousin Vinny, Witness for the Prosecution, Anatomy of a Murder. I think those are my top 4.
Wow. Have you seen The Verdict?
That would be my number 5.
Okay.
Glorious.
Have you seen Class Action with Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio and Gene Hackman?
That would be my number probably 40-something.
Out of 12 that you've seen.
I enjoyed it, but it isn't on par with those other 5.
It's fun.
Shawshank is a more universal movie, I think. Okay. And so if I'm picking one movie to represent the entire genre, while I do think 12 Angry Men might be a better movie, I have no qualms with choosing Shawshank to represent the genre. Nope. Zero qualms.
Yep. Zero. Yeah. Qualmless.
Qualm-free. Sans qualm.
Sans qualm? Now I want a croissant. Am I the only one?
No.
With some butter? A little butter? No. Okay. All right. Next.
Last part of the last question.
Oh, man. This has been a good gauntlet.
Yeah.
I don't feel dirty at the end of it yet. I hope I don't feel dirty right now.
I don't think you will.
Okay.
Comedy.
Yes.
Pick one comedy to represent the entire genre.
Okay.
Ace Ventura.
Oh, no.
Spaceballs.
No.
Shaun of the Dead.
So far.
Dumb and Dumber.
Wow. Okay, here's the deal. My answer is Shaun of the Dead.
Me too.
Okay, but 2 Jim Carrey movies in there. That's
right.
Like, stretch it out a little bit, buddy. Your 25 is showing. So the other thing is, I think Dumb and Dumber actually is sneakily deserved. Like, I underrate Dumb and Dumber.
Me too.
It is a better comedy and a more important comedy than I give it credit for.
Agreed.
And one thing that comedy one thing that I think is an underrated quality to comedy that goes all the way back to forever is slapstick. And that movie is the height of slapstick comedy in film. Mm-hmm. Because it manages to keep it within a narrative structure. It isn't just a string along of bits. Bobby and Peter Farrelly actually created a story with 2 characters that you do somehow manage to care for, even though they are despicable. Not just stupid, but actually despicable people. And you manage to care for them, and there is an actual plot that actually manages to be accomplished. And it's not just bits. They actually somehow feed into the plot in ways. Mm-hmm. To that end, it is probably a better movie than I've ever given it credit for.
Yeah.
Shaun of the freaking Dead, man. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just would rather watch it over and over and over again.
It's extremely rewatchable. It's so much fun. It's laugh out loud funny. It is based in actual characters. Much like we did with the sword one. Blake, here's how to write a question that'll make us tear our hair out. All right? Shaun of the Dead. Animal House. Stripes. The Apartment.
Any Monty Python. Put Monty Python in there to
Any
really...
Monty Python. Go old school. It happened one night.
Oh. Okay.
Right?
But it's a good question. I think it's a good question. I think Ace Ventura and whatever the other one was are totally out. I mean, the problem with Spaceballs is it's not even the best Mel Brooks movie. It's not even it's like the fourth best Mel Brooks
I
movie.
would put it fourth. I would put it fourth, yes.
But it is a spoof, and that's an important category.
Agreed. Agreed.
But Dumb and Dumber and Shaun of the Dead are heights of the form.
I agree with that.
And one's a height of slapstick. I would almost choose Dumb and Dumber, even though I by far prefer Shaun of the Dead, just because it brings so much physical comedy into play. Like
that's fair.
Because it's straight comedy and Shaun of the Dead is horror comedy.
Right. God, I mean, we haven't even talked, and I know we can't bring this in because it's really snooty of us, but like any of the great silent comedies, Chaplin or Keaton, I mean.
No, sure. But that's physical comedy, and Dumb and Dumber is in that, and frankly, so is Ace Ventura, but it's not as good of a movie. Dumb and Dumber at least brings that into play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the deal. Shaun of the Dead is a better movie. I'm going to choose Dumb and Dumber.
That's totally fair, but I mean...
Yeah.
Zombies are my jam, yo. So,
I understand.
Yeah.
I do. Yep.
That brings us to the end of the gauntlet, Phil.
Yeah, that's it. We made it.
We gauntleted it up.
Thank God.
We maybe threw a gauntlet back down at Blake, actually.
I don't want Blake to feel like somehow by doing that we were calling into question his gauntlet skills. Blake was a great gauntlet, and you can write us more in the future if you want. And I hope everyone... Tomorrow's a mailbag.
Phil was doing that. Phil.
Put the lotion in the basket, Andy. All right. It's kind of fun to say it. It's kind of fun to just say it in a normal voice. Put the lotion in the basket, man. We're done. All right.
It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again.
It gets the hose again. I want to encourage people. There is a thing up on, you can find it on Grantland, but you can also find it in YouTube, of a girl doing Lena Dunham, pretending to be Lena Dunham auditioning for Zero Dark 30. It is worth your time.
Awesome.
And I am a fan of girls, and I'm a fan of Lena Dunham, and I am and Zero Dark 30 was one of my favorite movies of last year. I think you will enjoy it thoroughly. And we have our mailbag next week, or tomorrow. We have a mailbag tomorrow, return of mailbag. After a week off from mailbag, we return triumphantly. Indeed. And the third thing I want to say is, look out for our friends who do Tadpog, the video game podcast. That's really, really fantastic and funny. TADPOG, Tadpog. Tyler and Dave play old video games. Totally worthwhile. Anything else we need to talk about? I
don't think so. I think this has been, another Second Breakfast podcast. Yes. And I am Andy Roth, and that is Phil Duvall.
I am. It's true.
Yeah, last time I checked. And that'll do it.
I bid you good day.
Indeed. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.